Alright guys, so this is take 2 of this Scream 7 reaction video. My original video, I don't know what happened to the software that we normally use. It decided to go crazy and it erased the video, and I am so upset that I have to do this again, but it's okay. Give me more time to really take it all in. Alright, so let's get started. And full disclosure and warning, there are going to be so many spoilers. So if you have not watched any of the Scream movies, well, you get the point. Go watch them and come back. But seriously, full on spoilers. Alright, so I kind of want to take a minute and kind of go back a little bit to the whole Scream franchise and how this all came about. And you know, it was so many years ago. I'm not going to say exactly how because I'd be revealing my age, and I feel old enough today as it is. Okay, so the original Scream, I have to say that the original Scream kind of jolted the horror genre back to life. I've got to say that. It so brought a whole new angle to horror and just a whole new kind of life. It sounds weird, but it kind of breathed life into it because it was kind of sagging, like, you know, like 90s, and just we needed something. And Wes Craven, may you rest, you are a genius. So we have the first Scream. You know, we have Neve Campbell and the whole ensemble, of course, Courtney Cox and everyone else, and I'm just kind of going to get into the characters. So we have this movie about the 17-year-old girl whose mom was unalived in a very horrible way, and that traumatized her. And then a year later, people just start getting unalived, and it happens to coincide with, which is almost the 1-year anniversary of, you know, her mom's unaliving. And of course, she's dealing with all this trauma. She's got things going on in her life, and it turns out that it's her boyfriend and his best friend. Again, I said spoiler, so I'm just going to get right to it. So Billy Loomis and Stu Macher were the original killers in the Scream franchise. And the reason was, apparently, and that's Jedi jumping on me, apparently Billy's father was having an affair with Sydney's mother. I mean, sure, stuff happens, people get divorced, but he was so sad because his mom got sent to, like, didn't get sent away, but his mom left, couldn't handle it. Dad's, you know, typical male. And of course, that kind of messes Billy up in the head a little bit. So him and Stu decide to go on a little unaliving rampage. And the first Scream was, you know, classic. It's epic. It checks all the boxes. Like, you don't know who's who. Like, everyone's a suspect. You have no idea what's going on until like the very end where everything gets revealed. But in good old-fashioned final girl kind of situation, Sydney comes out on top. She, you know, unalives both of them and is the hero, as is Gale Weathers, which is the character that Courtney Cox plays. And then we're also introduced to Dewey Riley. And it is just an amazing ensemble. Cut to a couple years later. You know how it is, us fans, we want more, and we get Scream 2. Now here, Sydney's already in college, you know, she's paving her own way, she's got a new boyfriend, she's got new friends, and of course, her whole life story, because of a book that Gail wrote, is made into a movie, starring Tori Spelling. I love it, I really love it. And of course, she's trying to live her life, and she keeps getting phone calls from people just harassing her and just being things, but then people get unalived again. They start showing up unalived, and Sydney's like, oh my gosh, this is starting again. What's going on? And you have Randy, and then you have Gail, and you have Dewey again showing up. And the part about this is you're thinking, like, who's the suspect? And again, they don't make it obvious, and then you're starting to suspect everybody. Even the main characters you're starting to suspect, but in the end, it actually ends up being, you know, Billy's mom. She wants revenge because Sydney unalived her son. But of course, her son was kind of a homicidal maniac, so, you know, she did what she had to do. And of course, that kind of flipped her out, and mom decided to get her own revenge, which, you know, family revenge. It happens. But then the second killer turns out to be just kind of like, I'm gonna say kind of like a nobody. Like there's no connection to Sydney whatsoever. He just wants to be a psycho and blame it all on the movies and have a trial and just until Billy's mom says no, no, dude, I've used you enough. I don't need you. All right. Again, in good old fashion, Sydney comes out on top with a little help from Cotton Weary, which we learned was a man who had also had an affair with her mom, but got blamed for her murder because Sydney thought she saw him. Anyway, so here we go. More years pass by, and we need another Scream. Scream 3. Here all thinking, oh, it's a trilogy. Awesome. I love trilogies. I just love seeing how everything is going to, have a conclusion. And when you see it, you don't think like, okay, who's left? Like, who can come after Sydney? And you're thinking all this stuff. And yes, I'm going to go through all the Scream movies, so you might as well take a chill, get some popcorn. So as the movie is transgressing, you're thinking, who else? Me personally, when I started watching, I was like, what if it's Billy's dad? What if he kind of flipped out? His ex-wife is gone, his kid is gone, and now maybe he wants to, get a piece of the action or something. And the weird part is that at the end where they reveal who it is, which is just one killer, that apparently Sydney's mom, she tried to be an actress when she was younger, was abused and ended up having a child whom she put up for adoption. And this person, which ended up being Roman Bridger, which was the director of one of the Stab movies that was going on within the movie within a movie, get it? And he's like, he wanted to, know his mom and know his sister, but mom rejected him, so that messed him up. And then we find out, is the culprit, basically the mastermind out of all of this, because he's the one that put the idea in Billy and Stu's heads. He molded them to be psychos, and that then, propagated for Billy's mom to then also go psycho, and then it comes full circle. Sydney's brother wanted their life, again, why did they talk so much in the end? You still shoot him in the head. And you're thinking, okay, we're done. We're good. All right, everything's, happy ending. Sydney's still on top. Got Patrick Dempsey as a very cute cop. Let's keep going. Sorry, had to. The hotness. All right, so lo and behold, we get a Scream 4. And I'm thinking, okay, I like the fact that they came back to the same characters. What's going on? So many years have passed. Things are happening. And I'm thinking, yeah, but now who would be doing this unless it's actually one of the main characters? Is it Gail? Is it Dewey? Who did Sydney go crazy and decide to go on a rampage? But no. We're back to the whole family thing again. Because in Scream 4, excuse me, it turns out to be her cousin Jill. Her cousin Jill has lived her full life under the shadow of Sydney's courageous story, and then she wants to be the center of attention, and she wants to be the new survivor, and, of course, mess with her head. What is wrong with these people? These people really need to take some Xanax. And then she, suckers in some dude, some, guy that's obsessed with all the Stab movies, who he wants also his, 5 minutes of fame and all that. The thing that I liked about Scream 4 is that it brought to light all the things about, kind of found footage and, real life going on. And that's what they tried to flip everything as. Like, we're, unaliving people live on cam and sending it out there and kind of stuff like that. But anyway. All right. Again, Sydney, she's in proper form. Nobody's going to mess with her. She's kind of, been training. She's got this. And Gail, even though she got shot, she still bounced back. And Dewey's, always seems to get beat up and knifed up and all that stuff, but still with us. And I really did, like the ending and everything. Okay, we're done. We're good. Scream is done. And here comes number 5. And I am thinking, okay, another Scream movie. Now what? What other family members are going to mess things up? And I'm thinking, can't be Billy's father. Can't be Sydney's father, because that would be really messed up. Did Gail finally go crazy and decide that her career was in the garbage and she needed to kind of rehook everything up and just kind of get it started again? I don't know. They totally flipped the script on this one. Billy Loomis had an unknown child when he was a teenager. And this child grows up and is in the shadow of her. She figures out who her father is, reading some stuff of her mom's, and she's like now living under the shadow that her dad was a psycho killer, and she has to deal with it. And then we have these two new, Ghostface killers who I have no idea how they're connected to anything. And then you're thinking, okay, who are in the Ghostface masks? And it turns out to be like basically nobody's, like Billy's daughter's like boyfriend and some girl who are just basically trying to kind of like make a requel, kind of like a remake kind of sort of way, and they're obsessed with the movies, they're obsessed with Billy, they're obsessed with Stu, and they just want to kind of like start the whole thing again. And Sydney's there, and they help each other, and but in the end everybody's still alive, but we lose Dewey. I think we lose Dewey in this one, and I don't like that. I was hoping he would like really like make it to the end. All right, so then we have like these characters, like I think it's Sam and her sister, were played by Jenna Ortega, and they're the survivors. And then Sydney goes on her merry way, but then Scream 6 comes along, and Sydney's not in this one, so that's why I'm not a really big fan of Scream 6, because if you're going to continue a franchise, you want to kind of keep the characters involved. But I mean, this one just follows Sam and her sister to New York. Gail is still in the picture somewhere. And I'm thinking, okay, what, seriously, are we just going to kind of like start like a new branch of the franchise with these people, with these characters? And then you have 3 Ghostface killers. I'm like, you guys are increasing, killers by the movie here. If we have a Scream 20, how many killers are we going to have? Like half the civilization or something? I don't know. So, in this one, again, it's more a motive of like number 2, revenge, because apparently the Ghostface killers are family members of the killer in number 5 of Richie. Family members who are also obsessed with the stab movies, and they even have this weird museum of all this memorabilia from all the stab films and all the crime scenes, and even one of them is a cop. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense, but okay, the unaliving scenes are amazing, the action's amazing, but I'm not a really big fan of this one. Okay. Cut now to Scream 7, which is the one that I just saw this past weekend. That I did that reaction video that got erased. But I'm trying to make it, guys. Okay, so we have Scream 7, we have originals, we have Sydney back, we have Gail is back. And, of course, Sydney's married at this time. She's got the kids. She's got a 17-year-old daughter of her own. The only disappointing thing about this, of course, was that I was kind of hoping that Sydney was married to the cop from number 3, because Patrick Dempsey would just been so cool in this. I'm floating. Sorry, I'm coming back. It's Patrick Dempsey. Come on, he's hot. All right. Anyway, so she's married to the chief of police, which is a good thing because, there'll be lots of guns around. And her daughter's 17. She's going through her own teenage angst. She's got her own boyfriend. She's quote-unquote kind of living under her mother's shadow. Her mom is very oblivious to how to have a relationship with her since her own mom passed away. And, their relationship was apparently very close. She has no idea how to reach out to her daughter in order to explain the whole Sidney Prescott thing, where she keeps saying, please, I'm Mrs. Evans. So we have this. I'm thinking how or what or who are these Ghostface killers going to be this time? How are they going to intertwine into Sydney's world? Or what is the connection? So before I even went into the movie theater, I made a bet with M, and I told him, this has been going on so long, and I bet you I can guess who the killers are before we get to the end and the big reveal and all that. And he looks at me, he's like, bet, all right, I bet you can. And I'm like, shouldn't have done that. Challenge accepted. All right, so as I'm watching the movie and I'm seeing all of what's going on, what I did really like is that they started right off the bat with the violence. Okay, that sounded a lot better in my head. It didn't mean it the way it came out, but you know what I mean. It's a horror movie. You want to see the blood and the guts, and it did not disappoint. At least to me, it did not disappoint. Again, this is my opinion, guys, so I mean, having that first, few moments in the Stu Macher house being an Airbnb, how cool is that, first of all? And then, I gotta say, the jump scares were amazing. I jumped, and I am not easily scared. And I even jumped when M jumped because he like, I'm like, dude, really? So this whole thing with Stu Macher, and I'm like, wait a minute. When I first saw that, because I tried not to see any of the trailers. I really tried to stay from away from social media. I don't want to know anything. But then seeing Stu Macher's house, and I'm thinking, there's no way. There's just no way that it could be. Maybe it's a family member of Stu's, because we never like saw like parents or siblings or anything, right? So okay, we got Sydney and we got her daughter, and then suddenly we have an unaliving scene at her daughter's rehearsal. So now she's in, but Sydney gets a phone call, guys. Again, big spoilers. And I'm here thinking, there's no way. There's just no way. When she takes that phone call and you see Stu Macher, I'm like, there's no freaking way, guys. And I'm there sitting and I'm being very analytical and just kind of like, and I'm like leaning over to M and I'm like, I bet you the Ghostface killer is using AI, because it's big right now, to fool us into thinking it's Stu. I bet you. Okay, keep it going. We have, of course, an unaliving at the theater. Her Tatum, which she named after her best friend. That's her name. Her best friend gets unalived, like right there, smack, boom. They didn't even wait. They just like, we're done. Oh, and it was an excellent scene, guys. If you're into horror like me, excellent unaliving scene. Really sounded much better in my head, but you guys get it if you love horror. Okay. So as we're going along, and as I'm looking at characters, there was one character that goes into the coffee shop and looks at Sydney a certain way, and Sydney a certain way. Sorry, my stutter. And I tell I don't know why, but that one is one of the killers. But I bet you that's one that is like an extra, kind of like that one's not needed. And he's just looking at me like, how do you know this? I'm like, it's a gift. So. And then as soon as that happens, another scene comes up and there's another character and I go, oh, right there. Right there. That's that one right there. That's definitely another one of the other killers. And then he's like, wow, you're 2 for 2. We'll see. I'm like, yeah, we'll see. Okay. So as the movie is transgressing, the Ghostface killer goes into their house and is chasing them, and Sydney's husband is fighting him, and the Ghostface killer gets kicked to the street, and then in awesome movie fashion gets knocked down by a car. And who's driving the car? Gail. Like, yeah, I'm here to save the day. Let's find out who this person is. And once they rip off that mask, I'm like, I told you, that dude from the coffee house. Look, that's him. That's him. And everybody's like standing around the body thinking like, what is this guy doing here? And we're like, I told you, that guy is a nobody and he was just used. Okay, we keep it going. We hear like they're trying to investigate if those phone calls are from Stu Macher, because they keep using his face, to kind of like drag it out. And with Sydney, and Sydney's like, we need to find out more about this. So they end up actually going to this kind of like insane asylum. And in this insane asylum, they meet this guy who's an orderly there. And he's like, oh, okay, I can show you the room and everything. And I'm just like looking at this guy. And then he's like, yeah, we used to have a John Doe in here. And then I go to M. That's the other one. As soon as he started talking about a John Doe who didn't have memory, who, stayed there and then he was released, and I'm like, that's the third killer right there. And he's like, are you sure? I'm like, trust me, I know this. Throughout the whole movie, we're seeing this like, AI thing of Stu Macher to make us think. But every time the AI comes on, there's like subtle differences that you're like, that's fake. It's fake. You're even thinking it's Tatum's boyfriend, and then she smacks him good with that laptop. But still, by the end of the movie, as always, Sydney comes out on top. Gail, one of the things I gotta say I also did not like was Gail should have had more screen time. I feel like she should have been more involved. But I get why not as well. But I wish she would have had more screen time. Maybe there'll be another Scream, I don't know. But I kind of missed that. And just seeing the relationship between Tatum and Sydney, like, really get together under crisis, like, her development into from, like, the daughter who didn't know much to the daughter who is so proud of her mom and becoming also as tough as her. So, the big reveal, like, Ghost Killer, like, the Ghostface gets Tatum. That was the objective. They wanted Tatum. So, they hold her hostage. Sydney arrives. And the big reveal, we had that orderly from the hospital who's obsessed with Stab and is obsessed with everything. Of course, we have another obsessive fan. And then the other reveal, here comes the other reveal. It's her neighbor. The other one that I said from, it's like, that's the other one. I was right. I pegged them all. But the thing about it is, I'm thinking, why are these killers kind of like kind of nobodies? Like, what's the angle here? What's the angle? Then I heard the explanation. Jessica, the psycho neighbor, was obsessed with Sydney because she read her book and was so inspired to become stronger because she was in an abusive relationship that she decided to kill her, or should I say, sorry, unalive her husband so she could get out of that toxic relationship. Ladies, if you're in a toxic relationship, there are better ways to get out of it. Don't read a book and decide that you want to, unalive him. It's not the answer. There's ways. But again, this is a movie, so we're going to keep going. So she was having a hard time, and she spent time at that mental institution where she met the psycho orderly, who was upset with the Stab. And she's like this whole mastermind. And then that other guy, that unknown guy, was a mental patient there too. So they just kind of like manipulated him and brought him into the whole fold. And I'm like, wow, out of left field. But then again, it makes sense in the way that, Sydney has been through so much. She wrote that book. She's kind of famous, but then she kind of disappeared out of the limelight. People looked up to her because of her story, and I guess some people took it too far, thinking, you retired, you left us, but we just realized that you can't continue on this. So we've decided, these are the killers talking, that we're going to make a new final girl. I think that your daughter should take over your story. That was their plan, to take out Sydney and make Tatum the new version of Sydney. But of course, do you think Sydney was going to have that? No. Oh, side note. When a person gets stabbed like 30 times, how long does her body have to bleed until they are unalive? Because Sydney's husband got stabbed 3 ways from Sunday, and he was still alive by the end of the movie. But then again, it's reminiscent of the great Dewey, that he got stabbed in a lot of the movies, and he was still alive, except for the one where we lost him. All in all, guys, I really did enjoy this movie. It was a lot of twists and turns, a lot of jump scares. I have to say that the unaliving parts with Ghostface were really thought out, really good. Like, it kept you on the edge of your seat, like, what's gonna happen next? What else are they gonna throw in here? So I know there's a lot of mixed reviews about the movie. This is my opinion based on all that I've watched from all the Scream movies. I'm going to say it again. I like number 6. So number 7 kind of made up for it a little bit. And I understand there's also a lot of, negativity around how this movie came about. But again, my opinion, that's just me. Neve Campbell did an amazing job. Courtney Cox did an amazing job. And then having all those characters and those actors come back to reprise them as AI, also, thumbs up to you guys. You guys did amazing. Thank you so much for kind of bringing this to a close, which I'm hoping that this movie was a close to the Scream saga. Are you listening? Leave them alone. We're done. We are done. Guys, what did you think about the movie? Let me know in the comments. Let's open a conversation because I feel like I've been talking forever and I didn't realize I was going to make this video that long. But let me know in the comments, what did you think about the movie? Your thoughts. Let's have a conversation. Again, thank you so much for sticking with me and having me have to record this video again. I hope that the computer behaves this time and does not erase it because I don't think I can do this again. If I do, it's probably going to be shorter. Alright guys, do not forget to like and subscribe. And as always, from my heart to yours, put some love out into the universe. And I'm going to see you guys in the next one. Shorter, I promise. Bye.